No, all this extra stuff. Let's see. Okay, I think it went live. Are you good on your end, Takara? Okay, I'm super excited. Super excited. I think I'm trying to see where did it go live under? Did it go live underneath the Phenomenal Woman, or did it go live underneath my personal account? I can't tell. Can you guys see it? Okay. Sweetness. Okay, so I'm super duper excited because we have some special guests, or I have some special guests with me today. And I'm super excited that they decided to join us. So, this is one of 3 live sessions that we're going to be doing. And for those of you who don't know, my name is CJ Jackson, and I am the owner and founder of the Phenomenal Woman Academy. And we host the annual Phenomenal Woman Conference. And the 2 beautiful women I have here with me today, the Takara Nicole, the identity architect in the building, right? We're gonna get into what that even means. And then I have the lovely Miss Wendy Anderson with us today. We're gonna get into what she does because you do a lot as well. And this is our opportunity to just get to know you guys a little bit before the conference, an opportunity to talk a little bit about why you wanted to be a part of the Phenomenal Woman Conference to begin with, what excites you about this upcoming conference, and then what is it that you do? What are you bringing to the table? And what can people expect from you when they walk through those doors? And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with Takara as a facilitator of the conference. So, Takara, please introduce yourself and who you are and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So, what's going on? Good morning, good night, good evening, whenever you're catching this. My name is Takara Nicole, aka the Identity Architect. So, I work with female Christian entrepreneurs to live, unlock, and rediscover their purpose to help them to build books, brands, businesses, and themselves. So, as a 12-time author, I'm the proud founder and CEO of Boston Publishing International, where I help my clients to monetize their genius and to understand how authorship is a brand, it's a movement, and how to help them to shift their ship to entrepreneurship. Also, the proud executive producer and founder of the Voss TV Network, where we're the EFG of media, all things empowerment, family, and growth. So you can catch us on Roku, Apple Fire, and Amazon TV. And so, also the proud founder, co-founder, I should say, of Dreamscriber as well, myself and my amazing sister in crime, Natalie Bonner, all the way in Chicago. We created a program back in 2019, but actually hit the ground running in 2021, where we help the youth, along with the incarcerated population, become published authors. And so it's been such a joy, such a ride. And so that's just a little bit about me. One of the reasons why I applied to be a part of this amazing conference in some shape or form. One of the things about women is that we do everything for everybody else and we neglect self. And so one of the things that God has continually shown me is that women have a vault. Like we have a combination to the vault as well. But life, trauma, you name it, workplace relationships, abandonment issues, rejection sometimes causes us to lose the combination. And so I love the fact that we can gather as women at this conference. We can pour into each other and really help each other to unlock and rediscover who we are as women so we can boldly walk in purpose together. So that's why I want to be a part of this conference.
Amazing. And we're so excited to have you. I am. And I'm so super excited to have you here. So I met you, and it's so interesting because this world is so small. It's big, but it's small. And I always say that. So we have a mutual friend and Miss Tasha Thompson. Okay, I call her Miss Jenkins.
Right.
Okay, take it all the way back to my Illinois days. And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a friend who's now living in Omaha." And I said, "What are the chances that you have a friend? Now you're living in Texas. Now you have a friend who's living in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm here in Omaha, Nebraska." She said, "You guys have to meet." And then when you and I met up, it was an
Yeah.
instant connection. And
Yeah.
so I have thoroughly enjoyed just being around you. And you have such a beautiful spirit and you
Mhm.
pour into other people and you're so selfless in how you pour into other people. So I appreciate you coming onto this platform this
Yeah.
evening. Thank you. And then, of course, we have Miss Wendy in the building. So, Miss Wendy, let's introduce you to the people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. Our story starts out that in a matter of 36 hours, our seemingly normal life was turned completely upside down, almost exactly 14 years ago, when our firstborn son, Dexter, ended up having infantile spasms and was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, tuberous sclerosis. And so, first time parents, everything is growing great, and then in a matter of weekends, we find out that we now have a child with rare genetic disorder and special needs. And so it was right at that moment where we had to make a decision. We can lay down and stay down, or we can rise up and love him and do everything that we can. And that's the decision that we made that day in the hospital, my husband and I.
Mm-hmm.
And it really came down to redefining normal. What we thought life was going to look like, it wasn't going to look like anymore. And so, a few years later, we had our daughter who was a preemie, and then later on was diagnosed with severe dyslexia, and then we have a third daughter also. And so it's really, I'm here to help families to understand that their lives are normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just the mindset and the matter that we're looking at it. And so I love to ask the question, like, define normal for me, because there isn't a question, there's an answer, right? And so I'm like, it's just a setting on the washing machine. And so, yeah, I loved
I like that.
and even then I'm like, who washes their clothes in normal, right? I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So, yeah, I'm just here to help empower families, to really just think about how they're viewing their lives in the world, to help get us out of fight or flight, and just to live our lives loving it and enjoying life together. And I'm super excited. Like, who wouldn't be excited to come be a part of a phenomenal woman conference? Right? I saw the
Right.
name of it and I was like, oh my gosh, where you can get a group of women together who are not going to tear each other down and instead
Amen.
empower each other. And so truly I was like, yes, I'm in, sign me up. I'm going to do whatever, because it's a hard world and there is a lot of judgment out there today. And so just to have that relief and that time, not only for that day, but then to also make connections with other women who
Mm-hmm.
are going to help lift you up. It's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And we see so many things on television, social media of women just tearing each other down left and right. And the competition that goes on that is so unnecessary. And we need to see more positivity. We need to see sisters in arms lifting each other up, holding each other up, encouraging each other. And that's really what this platform is really about. And it's so interesting because this is actually only the second conference. Last year was the first conference. And I remember when I had the idea, when God gave me the idea to put this conference on, it had to be pulled together in such a short time frame. And I started pulling it together. It was like the summer. And I picked the month of October because in my career, as a project manager, I'm thinking backwards. Like, I need to get this done, this done, this done, this done. How much time do I need? October is going to be a good day. I'm planning backwards. And so that's how we chose October. And then I had some amazing people who came on board to help me pull it off last year. And when I say there wasn't a dry eye in the house from the moment it kicked off, for those of you who are listening, who were there last year, I am telling the truth. Miss Darnetta, the attorney, she's also a lyricist. And she had a poem called Phenomenal Woman. And for every letter in the word phenomenal, literally, and that's not a short word, let's be real. She had this poem that was absolutely beautiful. And she kicked it off, and it was like a fire lit up the room. And the entire day. And so, and all the women who participated last year, all of our speakers, all of our volunteers, everybody who was a part of that event, our award recipients, I really wanted to make sure that as we moved into this year, kind of what were people expecting coming into the next conference. And so we took some of that feedback and we made some changes. And so we ended up with this awesome, amazing lineup that we have for this year based on the feedback from last year's conference. And one of the things that I thought was really special, we had a couple of girls who were in high school attend the conference last year, and they walked up to me and they said, what about us? Literally, what about us? I said, okay, I got you. We'll do something for you. And so this year, we don't just have, it's not just for women. We have a high school side that is specifically for them. And that's what Rachel and Michelle are going to be doing, is they've carved out a whole morning that is really geared towards the young ladies who are part of that. And it's also going to be some middle schoolers who are part of that. So literally, if you're like 13, 14 and above, you should be participating on that high school side, because they're really going to be talking about, critical topics that are important to our young ladies today and the things that they're facing in the schools. And so I'm really excited about that as well. But let's talk. I have a couple questions for you guys. Okay. So this is like the precursor. I have a couple of questions, because one of the things that I see with women, and you guys hear me talk about this because these are my 3 pillars, right? You hear me talk about this stuff all the time. Self-esteem, self-worth, and self-confidence is so critical and so important to women. And people don't realize that all that stuff directs how you move in life. And if you don't have a handle on it, if you can't manage it, it will manage you. So if you guys wouldn't mind just spending a couple of minutes talking about what that means for you, that'd be great.
So this is deep. So as the identity architect, sometimes I really dig deep in working with women to help them understand that there's a difference between surface living and actually going down to the root and actually understanding the root system of yourself. And a lot of times we live a surface living life, or a surface life, because we don't want to do the hard work to really discover who we really are, because we know that it's going to be tough. And so one of the things that I've learned is how important it is to do that hard work, do that hard dig, so you can really understand who you are, and of course whose you are for those of us that are Christian believers, because it's really important when you are walking out this thing called life, this thing called purpose, and really understanding your identity and your purpose in the earth. And then those that you associate yourself around. So 2018 for me was the year where I just started cutting people off. I was doing personal development, and I always say maybe I cut people off the wrong way, and I repented for that. But I was so selfish about my personal development growth, because I realized I had that aha moment that there was something more. There was something that was tugging at me to be around the right people, because every time that I presented myself and I did this and did that, the snickers, the, oh, you think you're bad, oh, you da da da, women trying to tear me apart. And I'm like, what are we doing here? We're women. We're supposed to be coming together as one, sisters, helping each other out, being encouraging to one another, you know, really having each other's backs.
Right.
And so as I was going through that metamorphosis, because that's exactly what it was, I really started to tap into who I was. And one of my sayings that I have in one of my books is knowing who you are as a game changer, because it is. You know how to show up to the game when you know who you are. And this game called life is ours. It's not mom's, it's not granny's, it's not Auntie Jane, it's not no one else's, it's yours. And you have to own your identity blueprint that God has given you to be able to walk that thing out. So you have to learn how to love yourself. You have to learn how to be able to be in different settings where people might not like you. That's fine, but you're there for a purpose. You're there for a reason. You're there because of your calling. So you can't get caught up in the fact, well, this person doesn't like me. This person doesn't like me. Do you like yourself? You do? Okay, then that's
Listen.
enough. Period. Keep it moving. And so I had to understand that. And so being a DV survivor, I went through a lot of different things in my DV relationship, which was starting to carry over in my personal relationship with myself, on how I viewed myself, my self-esteem. And so I really had to do that hard dig and be like, okay, that was his perspective of who I am. Who are you, Takara? Who are you without those words? Like, detach yourself from those words. Start to reaffirm yourself in who you are. And so I spent a lot of time in the mirror. I am statements in my car, you know, saying who I am, you know, recording myself, playing it back, so I could really understand how dope I am. And DOPE is one of my acronyms that stands for directing on purpose every day. How dope I am. Because I am dope, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And some people say, "Oh, I don't care what anybody else thinks," and they really do, because they really move according to what everybody else thinks about them. And you don't really love yourself if you're so focused on what everybody else is thinking, what everybody else is saying. So I choose to be different. I choose to stand out. Sometimes I want to go hide because being in the forefront isn't what I wanted, but it's what God is calling me to be. And so that causes me to self-reflect on his love for me. And then I can then love myself. So I digress, because I can go on and on.
Oh, thank you for that, Takara.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you. And I was, you know, as I'm processing it myself too, as a coach, I always have a coach too. And I remember the day that she said to me, "Who is Wendy Anderson?" And I was so proud of myself, because I'm like, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I have a nonprofit, I'm an advocate, I'm building a playground, like
all the titles.
And I rattled off all the things, right? And she's like, "That's all great. Those are all things that you do, but who are you?" And I sat there in silence. And after about 7 minutes, I started crying. Because I was like, you know what? When you strip all those things that I do away from me, I didn't know, like, those things that I did were my identity. That was who I was. And so, you know, just as you had mentioned, like, that's when you start to do the deep work and really figure out who you are, what you're about, and how you're going to live life, and self-confidence. And I can't remember all the 3 words that you said. But I was like, yes, all 3 of those things. Like, once we know who we are as individuals, we can have the confidence to drive forward. We can have the security to do those things. Like, I just sent a tough message, and I was like, you know, this is what I'm asking. I don't need you to make accommodations for my son. I'm asking, is he going to be included and welcomed? You know, and so it's really just being able to identify that and then marching forward. I was listening to a meditation this morning, and it was really like, make that decision. And once you make that decision, it's done. And you go forward. Like, how many times do we second guess ourselves and what ifs and maybe and da, 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 da. It was like, no, like, make the decision, have the clarity, and move forward with it. So
You said something really powerful. Make the decision and move forward. I call that pulling the trigger.
Yes.
And sometimes it's really hard to pull the trigger because you're stepping into a place of unknown, unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. And so I was on a podcast and I was talking about pulling triggers. And then I was like, yeah, you know, I'm trigger happy. And they were like, I was like, no, hold on. And
Let me explain.
I'm from Chicago too. Let me back up. You know, but just being happy with pulling the triggers, you know, going into the unknown, stepping out. And one of the things that you said, Wendy, it really reminded me as a publisher when I'm working with people to publish books, they'll write the whole book. And you know where they get stuck? About the author section.
right.
Now I'm challenging them to share about themselves. And we're not taught to share about ourselves. If we really go back down through our childhood, that's not something mom's like, all right, let me teach you how to talk about yourself. Like, no, that's not it. And so even adults, especially the women I work with, they're like, about the author, can you write that for me? No, I'm not doing that.
Right.
No,
Right.
I need you to write that. I need you to affirm who you are. I need you to know who you are without all those titles. If those titles fizzled away, who are you? And that's really hard, especially for women to actually stand up.
Yeah. That's really important. And a lot of people don't know who they are. And it's really interesting because we're not taught to figure that out when we're young. A lot of us were not taught that. A lot of us are just now figuring that out in our 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond, which is unfortunate because life is short. And it's when I work with young ladies, it's so funny because I always ask them to give me their definitions of, tell me what you think self-worth is. Tell me what you think self-esteem is. And it's interesting because when we get to self-esteem and self-confidence, people always interchange and they're not the same thing. They are two totally different things. I call them triplets because all three of them look the same, but they're distinctly different. That's why I call them triplets. And a lot of them can't answer that question. And so then I have to flip the question and say, well, how many of you think you have high self-esteem? And some people will raise their hand. And I'll say, how many of you guys think you have low self-esteem? And some of them will raise their hands. So in your mind, you think you have some definition that you're going off of because you're raising your hand saying you think you either have it or you don't. So we get to talk about it. But it's interesting when I say, well, how many people are confident? And everybody raises their hand like super high. I say, okay, and what? And then their hands start coming back down. And I ask that question because I really want my young ladies to start to realize you have to start doing some work and you don't have to wait until you're 40. And so the way that I define confidence is this definition right here. It's knowing, understanding, and trusting in something. And those things are your gifts, your talents, skills, and abilities. It's not enough for you to just know it. It's not enough for you to just know and understand. You have to trust in them as well, right? But if you don't know what you're gifted at, if you don't know what you're talented at, if you haven't taken the time to build any skills, and if you haven't invested in your abilities, what are you confident in? You don't know what, because all that's a part of you. Some of it is natural, some of it is God-given, you were born with it, and some of it you can go create and build, right? You can learn. And the power of investment, we as women do not invest in ourselves enough internally. Externally, we will. Listen, I love me a good wig. I love to get my nails done. But I want us to be as beautiful and as polished internally as we are externally, right? So it's just interesting when we walk down that path with our young ladies. I see a comment, trust is the key and we must conquer fear and unbelief. Amen. Yes. Yes, that is true. That is true. So I want to ask you guys like one or two more questions because we weren't going to be on here very long. This is just like a little taste precursor into the conference and what people can expect when they walk in the door as they're interacting and engaging with the different speakers and facilitators and panelists. Takara, you're an identity architect, you're a publisher, you have a company, media company, and if someone is on that track, how do they get in touch with you? How do they say, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book, I'm thinking about doing XYZ? How do they get in touch with you?
Sure. So the easiest way would be you can email me at hello at yourauthor'sauthority.com. So it's hello at yourauthor'sauthority.com. That's the best way to reach me. Or on Facebook, it's simple. It's I am Takara Nicole. I get inboxes all the time. So I'm very inbox friendly when it's appropriate and in alignment with what I do and who I am. So yes, that's the best way to reach me.
Thank you. And then Wendy, you also, because you have Redefining Normal, and can you talk just a little bit about what that is? Because you go live, I mean, you have podcasts and you stream, and if people haven't tuned into that, you talk about some really interesting things and some aspects. And can you talk some more about that for people who maybe don't even know what that is?
Yeah, thank you. And a lot of times, my husband and I go live together. And so it's really, we open the door, we talk about the dynamics between each other. We are both mindset coaches and speakers. And so being on our growth journeys together as well as individually. And so it's really just, our minds are amazing things and our brains are designed to keep us safe. I just had a Voxer conversation with a client today. She's like, I'm avoiding you. I'm like, I know. And our brains are designed to keep us safe. And so you avoid me because internally it knows that I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to help you go into an unknown and things like that. So I love working with individuals and with couples, just doing mindset coaches and really looking at like, what's the meaning you're giving experiences?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a child with a disabilities or special needs, like what's the meaning of that? Expectations, like the word in and of itself, so much struggle and disappointment comes out of the expectations that we've had on life, right? My husband and I were both collegiate athletes and coaches. So now to have a child that we don't know if he's actually ever going to experience an athletic field. There's some sadness there. And so really helping people to release that expectation, set the intention and release that expectation. And so, yeah, it's, just coaching, speaking, training, helping others to just really take a look at how they're experiencing the world. And might there be another view? Might there be another way that you can redefine normal so that you can live life loving it together? As you said earlier, CJ, life is too short, and especially to be miserable for most of it.
It really is. And what's the best way for those people who find themselves in a situation or who may want to reach out and get in contact with you and sync up with you? What's the best way to do that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So on Facebook, it's Redefine Normal with Wendy Anderson. My website is Wendy Anderson Presents, Anderson with an E. And so, just sending us a message either way. We appreciate it. And even if you just need to say, I just need someone to share something with, I'm always open to that.
That's amazing. Okay, you guys, the information is out there. So whether you are trying to redefine normal as it sits for you, or if you are in need of a total revamp when it comes to your identity, you need some help. Because listen, I've talked to my girl Takara. Listen, she's really, really good. And you have the information out there. If you haven't purchased your ticket to the Phenomenal Woman Conference, I honestly don't know what you're waiting on. I mean, honestly, at this point, you're going to miss out. The spot's going to get taken up and you're not going to have a seat. So go to phenomenalwomanacademy.org. Use the promo code that's been flashing across the screen for the past 30 minutes. Flash 2023 is the promo code to get 50% off of the tickets. The event is on October 7th over at the Beermore Event Center, which is over in Bellevue, Nebraska, which is a part of the Marriott, the Courtyard Marriott Hotel over there. It's a beautiful space. We have a dynamic lineup of speakers. Next week, Thursday, same time, same space, we will have one of our keynote speakers joining us. And then the following week, we will have some of our breakout speakers joining us. And so look forward to having that pre-conference live with them. Thank you, Takara. Thank you, Wendy, for joining me today. I appreciate your time. It's been beautiful. And I cannot wait for the conference. And I can't wait for the photo shoot if some of you guys can make it. So it's going to be bomb.
And thank you for all the work that you're doing to bring this Phenomenal Woman Conference together.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. The planning committee that's out there, let me give a shout out to them because those women are very helpful. So Queenie Taylor, Vira Brooks, Jody, and Tamika Kabanji, they have been really, really helpful. And then to Lachelle Johnson, who sits on my board. Those ladies have been absolutely wonderful in helping me pull this together. So this is going to be an amazing event. I promise you, this is going to ignite you. This is going to set you on fire. This is going to get you moving, and this is going to inspire you. Come and get poured into because you will not be disappointed. And with that, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.